Hey, what's going on, everybody? Nicholas Moreano here with another edition of the Nicholas Moreano Show. Look, I literally just wrapped up a show with Herb Howard and the Bigs YouTube channel. Please go check that out. Subscribe to them for the Nick and Herb show that we'll be doing every Friday. But we wrapped up, and not long after, we were talking about cut candidates in that episode. We did nail Gerald Everett, who was released by the Chicago Bears, but DeMarcus Walker as well. So I came on here to just talk about, everything that's been going on with the Bears as of late, and had to make sure to just get my thoughts out there as the Bears are making moves. And plus, Ian Cunningham will remain the Chicago Bears assistant general manager, with the Jaguars electing to go with James Gladstone as their GM. Plenty to talk about. Make sure you like and subscribe this my YouTube channel, at Nicholas Moreano for the Nicholas Moreano Show. So let's talk about a couple of things here. Let's start with Gerald Everett, because I think that's obviously the news that happened first and everything. Actually, when Herb Howard and I were live, that dropped, so we got to see that happen. But that one was an obvious one, right? The Bears were able to save what, 5.5 million, I believe, in cap space with electing to go to a different direction with Gerald Everett. And then you add in also DeMarcus Walker as well, and now the Bears save over $10 million with those two respective moves. So it makes sense. I get it. Like when Herb and I were talking about it and on our show on the Bigs YouTube channel, like we knew we were in agreement with Gerald Everett. Like that was an obvious move. DeMarcus Walker, we were discussing it. Like we saw value in what he can bring to the team and how he could be someone that can fix into the rotations of defensive line if you added another piece on the end there to go opposite of Montez Sweat. But clearly the Bears thought otherwise and wanted to create more cap space to, just clear up things for them, provide them a little bit more flexibility. So we'll see. And I'm already seeing in the chat here, and I'll put it on the screen as I'm trying to, manage a couple things. Razi Muhammad, releasing DeMarcus Walker is a mistake. We're going to have to wait and see on that. I just thought, again, DeMarcus, I think, did some good things for the Bears last season. What could it still be viewed as an underwhelming signing for the Bears in general? I could see the argument for that, but for a guy that I think would have been a rotational piece, regardless if he was on this team or now in his status cut, he could have. I thought he could have had a role in this team, but the Bears have decided to go elsewhere. This is a guy that had 27 total tackles, and we're looking at PFF and some of their terminology. They have stops. He had 25, 4 sacks, 23 hurries, 12 quarterback hits, and 39 total pressures. A guy that provides some versatility lining up inside and outside. But the Bears decided, let's go in a different direction. We'll find probably different players that maybe Dennis Allen views maybe to be more the type, I guess, if you could say. But I mean, 6'4", 280, I think he would fit, the size-wise, what maybe Dennis Allen's looking for on the edge. But Bears did part ways with DeMarcus Walker and Gerald Everett. Now, let me backtrack here as I'm kind of scrambling and, getting on here just to talk about things. Why? Okay. Not only did money make sense for Gerald Everett, but I just think of like the Bears, they need another complimentary tight end to add with Cole Kmet. I think just when you look at what Ben Johnson had in Detroit, everyone thinks Sam Laporta, and that's obviously a huge focus for the Detroit Lions offense. Just Sam Laporta, what he's able to do on seam routes, work the middle of the field, obviously be a red zone target. But the Detroit Lions also last season lined up in 12 personnel 1,118 times last season. That's the most, according to Sumer Sports. And actually, and this is all an article that I wrote on my Substack. You can actually check it out, but I'm just kind of reading verbatim what I wrote. Detroit's offense finished with 0.15 expected points added, the EPA, the fourth highest in the league, behind only the Ravens, Bills, and Bengals when lined up in 12 personnel. So it was a personnel grouping, I should say, that the Lions use often, and it had success. And when you look in comparison to the Chicago Bears last season in 2024, the Bears utilized 2 tight end sets on 1,065 plays. It was the 12th most, so it was still top half of the league, but finished with a minus 0.16 EPA. 31st in the NFL, with the Falcons in dead last at minus 0.24. So the Bears just need to get more production. And it's not like they just need a more reliable guy that can line up on the field when Cole Kmet's out there. It doesn't necessarily have to be a pass catching target. I would more so look at it as how the Lions had a Brock Wright is somebody that's going to be more in the lineup to block and be asked to do those type of things. So like Sam Laporta last season for the Lions, he eclipsed all three of the Bears tight ends in yards, catches, and touchdowns just by himself. The second-year player out of Iowa finished with 60 catches, 726 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Better than everything that all the Bears tight ends did last season, with Shane Waldron and Thomas Brown calling plays. But the backup Brock Wright, who the Lions also had, he only had 13 receptions on 16 targets for 100 yards and caught 2 touchdowns. So it's not a big receiving threat that the Bears need to necessarily, necessarily add to the lineup. I think it's just a consistent blocker, someone that's going to be reliable and just you put out there. And what made it so effective too, you got to think about it with the Lions. When you're playing defense against them, they were equally likely to pass the ball with Jared Goff and the weapons he had as likely as they were to run the ball with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. So with that, I think it makes 12 personnel a lot more effective when you don't necessarily know what the offense is going to do based on the grouping. Excuse me as I get some water here. But I think that will help if the Bears can improve their rushing attack to be more effective, and maybe adding another running back to the group makes that happen. When they go to 12 personnel sets or 12 personnel groupings, you're going to see hopefully that same effect to the offense as they go and try to attack, opposing defenses. But that, it made a lot of sense for Gerald Everett. And I think that if you get another guy, and I've been doing like so much, I did the show with Herb Howard. Obviously I'm doing this one now. I recorded an episode earlier today who with my former professor, Scott Doctorman, who is going to give you everything you need to know about Iowa's running back, Caleb Johnson, but also some other targets that potentially could make sense for the Bears. And there is a tight end. So I'm going to leave that as a tease that could work as well.Maybe the Bears are looking to upgrade the tight end position in the draft later on. There's a guy that could fit that from the University of Iowa. So it made a lot of sense with Gerald Everett. And then DeMarcus Walker. I know I already talked about him, but I just think that, like I said earlier, regardless, they were going to need to add more capable defensive linemen to that room. And now that becomes even more of an emphasis now that DeMarcus Walker has been released. And I fully expect the Bears to, add those guys. And just knowing how important the trenches are for this team going into the 2025 season, what needs to be added, like defensive line is right up there with the additions that need to be made on the offensive line. So I just think that, and I'm seeing again, some Razi Muhammad again, Bears D-line cannot afford to be cutting guys like D-Walk. That was my thinking going into this before they made the move to cut him. They just don't have a lot of capable, reliable guys right now. Montez Sweat had a very up and down season overall. We definitely saw some good things from Gervon Dexter. I liked his what he showed. Towards the end, it kind of tailed off a little bit when you're looking just at like sack production. But I do like the way he's trending. Zach Pickens, as a former 3rd round draft pick, guys, he was a healthy scratch for a majority of the back end of the season. And I had injuries as well. So I don't know if that's someone that you can really count on the interior. Andrew Billings went down. When he's healthy, very good football player for the Chicago Bears. Then you have Austin Booker will be in year 2. Once he adds a little bit more weight, I'm curious to see what he can do as he, goes through, his NFL career. But it's also going to be very, very important, I would say, for the defensive line coach that is now going to be taking over for Travis Smith, who was with the Bears for a couple seasons. But when you're looking at, and now I'm blanking on his name, as I'm literally looking at the defensive line. There he is, Jeremy Garrett, who last was with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like, that's going to be a very important position, coaching spot. That's maybe a little underrated when we're looking at the entire coaching staff, but you need to get production out of whoever's in that room. Have to get it done. So when you look at Jeremy Garrett, like, that's someone I'm really curious, want to get to know on a personal level, just when you get an opportunity to speak with him at Hallis Hall, whenever that happens. And then just see how he's able to develop a defensive line, the players that are in his room. It's going to be obviously a really important position. The other thing really quick we need to talk about, is not really quickly, we'll definitely go in depth about this, but we've been waiting to see what was going to end up happening with Ian Cunningham. We finally got the clarification for him, and he is going to remain with the Chicago Bears, as the Jacksonville Jaguars, like I said, elect to go with James Gladstone as their general manager. So what that means for the Bears, look, I think Ian Cunningham does have value, no doubt, but you don't also get the third round draft pick this year and next year. And really quickly, going all the way back to Gerald Everett, just to share what, the move when they released him, that also meant, or well, actually, sorry, let me backtrack a little bit. Let me make sure I got the tweet so it's exactly what it means. Nick, I believe his last name we pronounce Corte, at Nick, Korte, on Twitter, does a really good job with explaining the compensatory picks and what value is, associated with one player when you release a player too, what all that stuff. He had a tweet right when Gerald Everett was released. He said, signing Gerald Everett for what turned out to be just one season for $6.5 million cost the Bears a fourth round 2025 compensatory pick for Darnell Mooney leaving for Atlanta. So there was a scenario, an alternate universe where the Bears could have had a fourth round compensatory pick because of Mooney leaving, and a third round compensatory pick for Ian Cunningham if he were to have left, and a third round in 2026. But the Bears get none of that. So they have to just use what they have at this point in their draft capital. But Ian Cunningham will be here in Chicago for another season. And at this point, it's like this guy has been in the hiring cycles, has, been interviewed, gone into the second round, and still has not landed that GM job. I don't know exactly what, the reason is for that. There could just be other qualified candidates that these teams are choosing to go with. I think, Ian Cunningham was really linked to that Arizona job last year. I can't remember if he declined or what ended up happening there, but he's definitely had opportunities. He's definitely had interviews, and he's still going to, be that guy next to Ryan Poles as they try to build things up in Chicago for what should be a really important 2025 offseason. Now you get a little bit more cap, about, a little over 10 million with the cuts of DeMarcus Walker, or releasing DeMarcus Walker and Gerald Everett. But yeah, just wanted to come on here and share really quickly as news breaks, and it always ends up happening like this too. Like Herb Howard and I, our premise for our show that we just did, and we're naming that the Nick and Herb Show on Fridays at the Bigs YouTube channel. Please go check it out. Please go like and subscribe that channel. We're going to be building that thing up as well. But we're doing cut candidates. We got the Gerald Everett one down. We were thinking that DeMarcus Walker would be on the team this upcoming season. That didn't end up being the case. But as soon as we got off, I don't even know, I went out to go play with the dog outside in the yard because I was neglecting him for a little bit, and come back to my news, see this, and it's like, oh, all these moves are happening. Or DeMarcus Walker is released as well. It's like, damn. It's like they knew we were going live at 1:00 and decided we'll just wait a little bit so you can't get all of the news in one show. You have to do multiple. So here I am, just updating you guys. And if you didn't hear, be in Indianapolis next week, NFL Scouting Combine. Cannot wait to get down there and talk to prospects, talk to NFL people, just be around the NFL world in Indianapolis. So if you're down there, make sure to hit me up. And we'll definitely make a time to hang out. Wait, Orange Cassidy. We we got a Tremaine Edmonds, next cut candidate. I don't think so, but if for people who are familiar with this show, excuse me, this show or just myself in general, Tremaine Edmonds is he's getting paid a lot of money. And I think he needs to raise his level of play this upcoming season. I know Ben Johnson had some encouraging words for him during his introductory press conference, him and TJ Edwards, the interior there. But like I need to see more from Tremaine Edmonds, to be completely honest. So I don't think he's a cut candidate, but he does need to show me something this upcoming season and be just an impactful playmaker. I think he has that in him. He's built different too, just physically built different. He just needs to show it on a consistent basis. But I think that's going to do it. I just want to come on here really quickly to talk about these moves, what it means for the Bears, and how they can look to fill those holes, those needs moving forward. So appreciate everybody for coming in here, hanging out, and there'll be plenty, I promise you, plenty of content next week as I'm down in Indy. Herb and I are going to be doing a lot of content, and if you didn't know already, I'm already doing doing some writing on Bear Report 247 Sports. Zach Pearson's over there, so been doing. So you can find my writing there. You can find my video content on my YouTube channel at Nicholas Moreano for the Nicholas Moreano Show, and then also with Herb Howard at the Bigs and what they're doing there, just building stuff up and doing. I'll definitely be doing some video content, just a bunch of stuff with them as well. So super busy, going to be everywhere, but wouldn't have it any other way. So that's where I'm going to wrap things up. Appreciate you guys all for hanging out for 15, 60 minutes, whatever it ended up being. But make sure to subscribe this podcast. If you don't already, what's going on? What's holding you back? Let's get it going. Get the algorithm going. So when you're looking up Bears, Bears content, Bears free agency, maybe Nicholas Moreano will show up in your feed. So I would really appreciate that. But I've appreciated all the support that I've had thus far. I'll see you guys. Today's Friday. I don't know if I'm going to have. Actually, there is going to be another piece of content coming out either today. Maybe I'll save it for tomorrow. I don't know yet, but like and subscribe and you'll check it out. Again, that tease I provided earlier. Got some really good insight on Caleb Johnson and some other Iowa players that the Bears could be looking into. And also Declan Doyle, Matt Aponte, however you pronounce the last name. I'll make sure to get that right too. Iowa guys that are now on the Bears staff. So again, how many times am I going to say I appreciate you? I do. I truly do appreciate you. But I'm going to wrap this up. See you guys next week from Indianapolis.